Imagine living in a quiet California neighborhood during the late 1970s. You lock your doors, set your alarms, and kiss your family goodnight, believing you are completely safe inside your home. But outside in the shadows, a figure is watching. He knows your daily routine, the layout of your bedrooms, and the exact spot where your sliding glass door latch is weakest. For over a decade, this phantom broke into homes across the Golden State, binding couples, committing horrifying assaults, and murdering innocent victims before melting back into the night. For 40 long years, law enforcement chased ghost leads while the killer lived an ordinary life right under their noses. He was known by many horrifying names: the Visalia Ransacker, the East Area Rapist, and the original Night Stalker. How did one man commit over 50 rapes and 13 murders without leaving a trace of his identity behind? And how did a tiny scrap of decades-old genetic code finally bring down California's most evasive serial killer? To understand how this mystery went unsolved for 4 decades, we have to rewind to the middle of the 1970s. California was experiencing a massive suburban boom. Quiet tracts of single-family homes sprang up in central and northern California, separated by drainage canals, greenbelts, and unlit pedestrian paths. In 1973, a mysterious burglar began terrorizing the town of Visalia. Dubbed the Visalia Ransacker, this intruder broke into over 100 homes, going through drawers and stealing strange, low-value items like single earrings, coins, and personal keepsakes while ignoring cash and valuable electronics. His behavior rapidly escalated into violence. On September 11, 1975, when high school journalism teacher Claude Snelling caught the intruder trying to kidnap his 16-year-old daughter Beth, the intruder shot Snelling 3 times, killing him, before fleeing into the darkness. Shortly after the Visalia shootings, the break-ins stopped in central California, but a new, far more terrifying pattern emerged further north in Sacramento County. Starting in June 1976, a masked intruder began targeting women and young couples in their suburban bedrooms. Dubbed the East Area Rapist by local media, his terrifying signature was meticulously calculated. He would scout homes weeks in advance, unlocking windows, unhooking patio lights, and hiding shoelaces under cushions to use as restraints. He would break in while his victims slept, blinding them with a high-powered flashlight, and threatening to kill them if they uttered a sound. When couples were present, he forced the woman to tie up her husband. He would balance a stack of dishes or tea saucers on the husband's back, telling them that if he heard a single plate rattle while he assaulted the wife in the other room, he would execute everyone in the house. Between 1976 and 1979, the East Area Rapist attacked at least 50 women across Sacramento, Contra Costa, Stanislaus, and Davis. The entire region was paralyzed by fear. Gun sales skyrocketed, hardware stores sold out of deadbolts and window locks, and local neighborhood watch patrols lined the streets. Yet, despite hundreds of police officers working round-the-clock shifts and tens of thousands of suspect tips, the attacker vanished every single time into the night, using bicycle paths and dry riverbeds to evade capture. In late 1979, the terror migrated hundreds of miles south to Ventura, Santa Barbara, and Orange counties. Here, the killer changed his tactic entirely, becoming far more ruthless. In Southern California, he became known as the original Night Stalker, leaving no living witnesses behind. On December 30, 1979, orthopedic surgeon Robert Offerman and physician assistant Deborah Alexandrina Manning were found bludgeoned to death in Goleta. Just months later, in March 1980, Lyman and Charlene Smith were brutally murdered with a log weapon in their Ventura home. In August 1980, Patrice and Keith Harrington were beaten to death in Laguna Niguel. In February 1981, Manuela Withun was murdered in Irvine, followed by Sherry Domingo and Gregory Sanchez in Goleta in July 1981. His final known victim was 18-year-old Janelle Cruz, who was tragically beaten to death in her Irvine home in May 1986. For decades, California law enforcement agencies operated in complete silos. The police in Sacramento had no idea their rapist was the burglar from Visalia, and the detectives in Southern California didn't realize their brutal murderer was the rapist from the north. The crimes occurred across different jurisdictions, handled by different police departments and sheriff's offices that rarely shared physical evidence. It was not until the late 1990s and early 2000s, with the advent of scrDNA testing, that forensic science proved what investigators had long suspected. In 2001, DNA samples recovered from crime scenes in Ventura and Orange counties were officially matched to biological evidence preserved from the East Area Rapist attacks in Northern California. One single predator was responsible for the decade-long reign of terror. Despite this massive DNA breakthrough, the National Criminal Database, CODIS, yielded no matches. The killer had never been convicted of a felony that required submitting a DNA profile. As the years turned into decades, the case went ice-cold. Detectives retired, victims' families passed away without answers, and the dossier grew into hundreds of thousands of pages of dead ends. In 2013, true crime writer Michelle McNamara coined the name the Golden State Killer in a series of groundbreaking articles, writing a book that renewed public fascination and urged authorities to use modern technology to stop the monster. The ultimate breakthrough did not come from traditional police footwork or informant tips, but from a radical new field, forensic genetic genealogy. In late 2017, lead investigator Paul Holes from the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office partnered with FBI veteran Steve Kramer and pioneer genetic genealogist Barbara Rayventer. They extracted a refined DNA profile from a preserved rape kit taken from the 1980 Ventura murder scene of Lyman and Charlene Smith. Instead of running it through law enforcement databases, they uploaded the raw genetic data to GEDmatch, a free open-source genealogy website used by everyday citizens searching for long-lost relatives in family history. The website returned hundreds of distant third and fourth cousins who shared tiny segments of DNA with the unknown killer. Barbara Rayventer and her team began building a massive, reverse family tree that eventually spanned back to the early 1800s, encompassing thousands of individuals across multiple generations. By cross-referencing family trees, census records, newspaper obituaries, and military files, the team narrowed down the vast family network to two specific branches. They looked for a male relative of the correct age, height, and physical description who was living in Northern California during the mid-1970s. When they filtered for individuals with a history of living in Visalia, Sacramento, and Southern California during the exact months of the attacks, one name rose to the top of the list: Joseph James DeAngelo Jr. When investigators pulled DeAngelo's background file, a terrifying realization washed over them. Joseph James DeAngelo had worked as a sworn police officer for the Exeter Police Department in Tulare County from 1973 to 1976, the exact era of the Visalia Ransacker. He had then transferred to the Auburn Police Department near Sacramento, serving as a police officer from 1976 until 1979, the exact years the East Area Rapist terrorized the Sacramento region. DeAngelo had been trained in police tactics, crime scene processing, and evidence collection. He knew exactly how police investigated crimes, how search dogs tracked scents, and how to avoid leaving fingerprints behind. In 1979, he had been fired from the Auburn Police Department after being caught shoplifting a hammer and a can of dog repellent from a local drugstore, the exact tools used by the killer. Shortly after his firing, the murders in Southern California began. In April 2018, law enforcement placed 72-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo under constant surveillance at his suburban home in Citrus Heights, California, a neighborhood located just miles from where some of his early attacks took place. He was living a completely normal life as a retired truck mechanic, spending his days gardening, maintaining his boat, and living with his adult daughter and granddaughter. On April 18, 2018, undercover officers surreptitiously collected a sample of DeAngelo's DNA from the exterior door handle of his parked vehicle in a Target parking lot. A second sample was retrieved from a discarded tissue taken from his trash bin outside his house. The crime lab ran the discarded samples against the Golden State Killer's DNA profile. On April 24, 2018, the lab returned a 100% positive match. After 42 years, the phantom had a face. The next morning, heavily armed officers arrested Joseph James DeAngelo outside his home. When brought in for interrogation, DeAngelo briefly muttered to himself about an internal voice named Jerry that drove him to commit the crimes, but he quickly invoked his right to remain silent. On June 29, 2020, in order to avoid the death penalty, 73-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo entered a courtroom in Sacramento and pleaded guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder and 13 counts of kidnap-related offenses. Additionally, he publicly admitted to dozens of uncharged sexual assaults whose statutes of limitations had long expired. In August 2020, DeAngelo was sentenced to consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, guaranteeing he will die behind bars. The capture of the Golden State Killer did more than close a cold case, it changed forensic science forever. Forensic genetic genealogy has since been used to identify suspects and identify unidentified human remains in over 500 cold cases nationwide. What was once considered an unsolvable mystery was finally conquered by a combination of old-fashioned detective work and cutting-edge genetic science. What do you think about the revolutionary use of consumer genealogy databases to catch cold case killers? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into historical true crime, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Thank you for watching, and stay curious.